There's this one question about Miyabi that Japanese are too terrified to ask. You see, we could see Miyabi's choice of underwear. In the Mindscape 6 art, the fabrics that covers around her chest is called sarashi, and the whole purpose is not only to just hold her honkers in place to avoid undesired jiggling movement that could hinder her performance in the fight, but to also shrink the size of her chest. And what we see here is the nerve size. And I think we will never know the real size of her ultimate weapon. And I'm glad that she doesn't unleash this gigantic beast, or else it's gonna cause the global financial catastrophe, sucking every single credit card dry. So when it comes to building anomaly characters, you usually want to build them with anomaly mastery and anomaly proficiency, because obviously you want to pair the word anomaly together. But things are very different with Miyabi. Should you pick attack percentage on this number 6 or the anomaly mastery? Pretty much all the content creator out there would tell you that attack percentage is better, which is about 17% better than the anomaly mastery. But in my content, I just said it's anomaly mastery. But why? Because they ran the test with signature weapon, but I don't. And it turns out that Miyabi without signature weapon is more consistent with anomaly mastery than the attack percentage. Especially when you couldn't even reach the 80% crit rate, it would scale even better, because nonetheless, she's still an anomaly character and still need to build up those anomalies. So I ran a test with Rina Yanagi team, testing both anomaly mastery and the attacks percentage. And guess what? I got 50 on anomaly mastery and 52 on attack percentage in the critical node second half, after I ran it for like about 30 to 40 times each and picked the best time out of it. So I would say the differences is actually negligible in these cases. But somehow when I tested on the first half, which is the enemy with the ice resistant, I got 81 seconds with the anomaly mastery in like a few tries. But with attack percentage, no matter how hard I tried, I could only get 93 seconds. And I think the reason behind it is because the anomaly mastery would trigger the disorder more frequently. So I could conclude that Miyabi without signature weapon is better with the anomaly mastery. Unfortunately, I don't have her signature weapon to test this out, but as I'm editing this video, somebody in the JP side has tested out with signature Wenjin, and it turns out that they also performed roughly the same with second or two differences. And it doesn't matter if you're playing hyper carry or you're playing disorder, and even energy regen is on the list. So it actually doesn't matter if you're going for attack, anomaly mastery, or energy regen. You should always go with the one with the better substat. And I would highly suggest energy regen if you feel Miyabi's rotation is kind of clunky. And somebody in the comments suggests that I should use attack percentage over the crit rate on this number 4 because other content creators says so. So I tested out in the second half with the same team, and I got 56 seconds with the anomaly mastery and 63 seconds if I put this 4 and this 6 as attack percentage. Of course without the signature weapon, but that doesn't prove those content creators are wrong. And I mean, like, I Win to Lose Gaming and I Am Riven, they did put a citation beside it claiming that you should still prioritize the 80% crit rate before considering yourself to use attack percentage on this number 4 and 6. And I do saw there are comments like, oh, I have my crit rate at 70% when I use attack percentage on this number 4 and 6 and still have a better performance, which I do believe that, because 10% of anomaly builds up is not a lot when you are talking about it out of 180%. So the TLDR is stick to crit rate and the anomaly mastery if you're not using the signature weapon. And if you have the signature weapon, you should only consider double attack this when you could reach 80% crit rate, which is also highly doable with the Mindscape 2 Miyabi, where you could get 15% crit rate for free. But yeah, pulling from Mindscape 2 Miyabi is not exactly free financially. And as for this number 5, like the attack percentage, elemental damage, and the pen ratio, all of them are roughly the same. Just go with the one with better substat. It's not as complicated as you think, but you might want to use pen ratio and the attack percentage when you are playing Miyabi with lighter, especially lighter with W engine. It should have some respectable differences, which I can't really make a test about it because I don't have it lighter. And the idea behind it is that if you're using elemental damage on top of the lighter's buff, which you can go as high as 60 to 70% elemental damage increase, you're not gonna get a lot of improvement because 30% elemental damage increase on top of 160%, you would only get 18.75 of improvement. So that's why pen ratio and the attack percentage are better. I don't think I get the mechanics and the science behind it correct, but I think this is a pretty good way to determine which kind of stat you want to put on your characters, because generally you don't want to stack one stat so much so that the value is diluted. So this is my gear for the run: to woodpecker and branch and blade saw with anomaly, and this is the attack percentage, which you can see the differences. It's not a lot. And this is my build on Yanagi. I use Thunder Metal Force set, and this is my gear on Rina, which is pretty atrocious. So I pre-buff with Rina and clear the trash mob with Miyabi. Her AoE capability is super strong. And here I would just do the standard thing with the Miyabi. And after proccing the Frostburn, I just swap to Yanagi immediately. And after I proc the Shock and Disorder, I use Charge Attack Swap Cancel to Yanagi here, because I know that her Charge Attack wouldn't fully build up the anomaly anyway. Then I swap back into Miyabi. Then as soon as I proc the Frostburn here, I switch to Yanagi and use the ultimate. Then I use Yanagi's hold attacks here, and also simultaneously switch to Miyabi. And using ultimate here would waste 3 stacks, but it's a speed run, and you might not want to do this in a longer fight. And here is the correct way of using swap cancel with Miyabi. Is 1, you want to use it after you proc the Frostburn, or you anticipate that your fully charged attack is not going to build up the anomaly fully. So I just keep doing the Yanagi thing until I proc the Shock. Then I buff with Rina's ultimate. So I do another charge attack swap here and finish off with Yanagi's skill. So I got 50 seconds here. So this is the run with the attack percentage. So as you can see, it took more basic attack from my Miyabi to fully build up the Frostburn. The rotation is roughly the same, and the idea is really to just proc the Disorder interchangeably between Frostburn and the Shock. And I use the same swapping tech here. So I proc the Shock here, then I immediately use her ultimate here, benefiting all the attacks buff from the Thunder Metal set. If you watch my videos on Miyabi, Lucy, Piper team, I talks about when you are using the Yanagi, you should pretty much always pre-build your abnormally so that you could proc the Disorder as soon as possible for the Miyabi to maximize the damage. It's something that you should keep in mind when you are playing Yanagi or any other anomaly unit with Miyabi. And I guess that's pretty much it. See ya guys.